We will just get with it. Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Miss Villanueva,
Here.
President Rice,
Here?
Norm Walker,
I'm here.
and Mr. Navarro Jr. and Mr. Beckett are not here.
Okay. If Ryan logs in, we'll says I'm late logging on, but I'm almost there. Okay, so he just sent me a text. So he should be here momentarily. We do have interpretation services tonight. Could I have someone announce that for our viewing audience, please?
Would you like to say it in Spanish?
Yes, please.
Please.
Okay. Para los que hablan español, también tenemos servicios de interpretación, perdón.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask folks to speak slowly tonight so that our interpreters are able to keep up. Sometimes we English speakers tend to talk pretty fast, and it gets a little cumbersome to try for the interpreters to try to keep up with us. So we will move right into the meeting. We are very honored tonight to have a Stanton student with us to lead us in the pledge. And I think Mr. Chaplin is here.
Yep.
Yes, okay.
It's
And
my
I didn't recognize you with the bike helmet on.
I'm sorry.
I thought, who is that with all that hair?
I actually have one. I have one in my office that protected my head at one time.
Okay, Mr. Chaplin, would you please introduce your student to us?
I would be glad to. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce a student that I had when I was the principal at Adams many years ago. And he left Yakima for a while. And last summer, he and his brother got out of his aunt's car and he danced across the parking lot. And saw him come in and he saw me and we recognized each other. He recognized me first. I think it was the hairstyle. But Lionel has joined me at Stanton now after spending some time in Mexico. And he has just been a wonderful addition to not only Stanton, but to the Yakima School District. The migrant pack meeting in December needed a Santa Claus, and the person who was in charge of that came to me thinking I would make a good candidate. And I saw Lionel and I said, well, I think Lionel might want to do that because we're trying to help Lionel get some experiences that might help him for some post-secondary education when he reaches that point. So this is Lionel Tapia Hernandez.
Hello.
Hi, Lionel. It's nice to see you.
Thank you.
Well,
I'm very happy to be here.
Welcome to our board meeting. Mrs. Anderson is going to display a flag on the screen, and as soon as you see that, you can start your pledge and then just hang on for a second. And I think the board members would like to thank you in person and ask you a few questions, okay?
Of course.
All right. Whenever you're ready, Lionel.
I'm ready. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lionel.
Of course.
We do have a couple of board members here with us tonight, and so I'm going to let them thank you in person, and then maybe they have a question or two for you, okay?
Of course.
All right. Graciela, would you like to start, please?
Sure. Hi, Leonel. My name's Graciela. Thank you for being here today.
Of course.
Mr. Chaplin mentioned some post-secondary options for you. I'm wondering if you could share with us what your next steps are after graduating Yakima schools.
Of course. Well, my career path, I want to be an engineer, agronomist, or in agronomy. I love that. In Mexico, I have like a year's experience of just working in that field, and I fell in love with it. I absolutely loved it. So my career path is going towards that.
Can you tell me what agronomy is? I'm not sure I'm familiar with that.
Agronomy is like the science of farming. You could say I'm a farmer, but I studied about it.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck with that.
I'm sorry?
Best of luck with that.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Graciela. Norm?
Welcome, Lionel. Thanks for doing our pledge tonight.
It was an
One
honor.
of my best friends is a former retired agricultural economist or agronomist, and his
Oh.
career took him all over the world.
Wow.
So that's an opportunity. It's a skill that can be used anywhere.
Okay.
So,
I was just hoping it takes me out of Yakima.
well, yeah. I mean, he's literally spent in South America. He's been in
Wow.
Africa. He's been in Yemen. He's been in Southeast Asia as an agronomist. So it's a wonderful career, and it can take you many places.
Okay.
So I wish you luck in that.
Thank you.
Leonella, I'm going to add my thank you for being here tonight. Now, what year are you in school?
It's a bit complicated to say, but let's just say next year I'm going to college.
Excellent. So we may see you at graduation,
Not
maybe?
specifically. I'm going another path, but I will be in college.
Okay. Well, in case we don't see you, congratulations on having your path and having a goal in mind that of a field that you have a lot of passion about, clearly.
Yes.
And I want to wish you the best of luck. And I know that Mr. Chaplin will keep us informed about your progress.
Okay.
And I apologize. For some reason, my camera keeps shutting itself off.
No worries.
I don't know why. Okay. You're welcome to stay, Leonel, if you'd like to. I understand completely if you have other things in life that are tugging at you and asking for your attention. But if you want to stay, you're more than welcome, but we completely understand if you need to move on with your evening.
Okay, thank you. I will stay.
Okay, thank you so much. Next on our agenda is the land acknowledgement. Norm Walker has been asked to read that land acknowledgement.
Okay, Yakima land acknowledgement. Today, the schools of the Yakima School District rest on the ancestral lands of the 14 confederated tribes and bands of the Yakima Nation. The people of the Yakima Nation inhabited more than 12 million acres across Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Franklin, Grant, Kittitas, Klickitat, and Yakima counties. Today, we honor those Native peoples who are tied to the land through history, legends, and culture. We acknowledge their descendants who live in the world today. We thank the caretakers of this land who have lived here and continue to live here since time immemorial. An acknowledgement is a simple, powerful way to show respect and a step toward correcting the stories and practices that erase Indigenous peoples' history and culture. It also honors the truth. As a school district, we will continue to build upon our relations with the Yakima Nation.
Thank you, Norm. I can't get this camera to stay on. It's strange. All right, the next item on our agenda is a study session item. This is a presentation from our Nutritional Services Department. Cassie is here. I think I saw her.
Good evening.
Hi, Cassie. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to tell you what's going on in the Child Nutrition Department.
Whenever you're ready to start, Cassie.
Sure. I believe, Barb, if you can share your screen, that'll probably be just a little easier for me to see since I'm on my laptop. Okay. To start with, and we just want to discuss some, as we're all in unprecedented times right now, and I just wanted to give you, no pun intended, the temperature of the child nutrition department. So we're in the process of rebranding the food services department to the child nutrition department. Basically, that will line up with the with OSPI and with USDA, since we're called the Child Nutrition Department. We used to be the Food Services and Nutrition Department. So that is an update we've been working on throughout this year. And then, so moving into how we've been able to feed our children this year with the pandemic and the other things that are going on. So USDA has allowed us to have several waivers. We haven't chosen all of the waivers, but there was waivers that were necessary for us to put in place to make sure that we're still in compliance and that we did what we could to best serve our students. So I think one of the biggest ones we did was the flexibility pattern due to distribution challenges. So an example would be if we didn't get a particular product, maybe milk, if we didn't get milk on time or we didn't have enough milk, we would still be able to go in, serve the students, and be able to claim the meal as such. Luckily, the waiver is just there. We haven't had to use it, but we are signed up for it just in case those challenges continue to happen. So this year also we are operating under the seamless summer option. And so basically it is, we run the National School Lunch Program meal pattern, which is the most strict and healthiest pattern for our students, but we run it under the seamless summer option. And that is so we can get the higher reimbursement rate. National School Lunch Program reimbursement rates are just slightly lower than the summer option rates. So that's what we chose, and we can, that will help offset some of the higher costs that we've been experiencing this year. So we've had to think outside the box. We've had to get really creative with our menus. We've had to go to scratch cooking because a lot of our popular items, which are basically heat and eat items, hamburgers, chicken sandwiches, which are still the students' favorite after many, many years. We don't always get those. They're not readily available as they have been in the past. So we have gone to more scratch cooking. There's a couple of them on here. Vegetable chili and tater tot casserole has been, the tater tot casserole has been one of the favorites, especially in the elementary, the school age of the elementary kiddos. So next slide, please. Barb. Thank you. Are we doing the newsletter first? Okay. The newsletter. So actually, I'm copying this from TNL. They've been doing a newsletter. They've actually got more issues up than we have. But when the opportunity came up with some more for us to do a newsletter, I thought, what better way to tell the district, families, parents, the board exactly what's going on every single month. So this is our first month that we're doing it, January 22. And can you click, or can I click that on, or I guess maybe you have to click that on, Barb. I think if you click some more, it should go to the newsletter itself.
Let me stop sharing and go to that one. Hold on just a minute.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Cassie.
Sure, not a problem.
Stop sharing and then share again. There it is.
Great. So this is our first newsletter. I don't know if you can make the screen any bigger or not. See if I can do that myself here. So I'm still working with S'more. I'm not the greatest at doing this newsletter yet, but we're making the best of it. It's a really kind of a cool program, and TNL has shown that with them having the newsletter come out once a month. So anyways, there's a couple of the subject matters that we chose. One is a fish philosophy. So you may or may not have heard of the fish philosophy, which was taken out of the fish market in Pike's at Pike Place in Seattle. So there's a whole philosophy on work ethic. And we just kind of adopted that last school year and then brought it on again this school year. So there's, if you'll scroll up just a little bit more, there's 4 different philosophies. Oh, I'm sorry, the other scroll down. There we go. Back a little bit, right there, perfect. So there's 4 philosophies that we live by in the child nutrition department. One is being there, showing up for you to learn. So it's being there is not only just being present at work, but it's also being there in mind and soul, and making sure that you're cognizant of what's going on around you and what's going on with your coworkers. Make their day. It's to point out something that would make someone else's day. You know, it's always really pleasant to be able to reach out and make somebody smile, and that's what making their day is all about. Choosing your attitude. You always want to make sure that you choose a positive attitude every single day, and we like to start out our days with that. And then play. There's always room for a little fun in the workday. I did have to define that a little bit more to make sure that they weren't playing a little more than I wanted them to. But as long as they can have fun during the day, you know, it makes the day go by quicker. You know, they always say that, what's the cliche? Time flies when you're having fun. So we like to apply that there. And actually in the child nutrition department, you can blink and your day is done. 8 hours goes by rather rapidly. And I attest it to part of it being play. So this one, then we in the fish stories there, they have a little fish with a little, we got little stuffed fish for everyone. It's called Pete the Perch, or Pete the Perch. This one says Pete the Fish, but he's actually a perch. And so we have one of those. It's kind of like the apple, but it's not a crystal apple. We pass it around either weekly or monthly, depending on how busy we are. But it's presented to someone either in the food services, or actually we've given it to transportation before. We've also given it to custodial, and I believe there's some schools that actually gave it to students as well. So it's for exceptional work or just a great teamwork and good work ethic. So we try to pass that around to someone either on a weekly or monthly basis. So then the next piece, if you want to go back towards the top, there's just a small blurb about the fruit and vegetable program. We unfortunately have had to stop it just this last week due to COVID, but as soon as we can get up and running again, we will get that going. But this is just a picture of a radish that it's a watermelon radish that we'd served earlier this year. Someone actually took a picture of it, and Erin Thomas was saying that it was one of her exciting days early on in the school year that the students came up and actually were talking to her about the watermelon radish. So I thought that was pretty a good successful story. So, and then just some little nutrition information here about the importance of milk. And there's anyway, so that's the gist of our first newsletter. And obviously I'm working on February at the moment. So there's more to come, but that will be published every single month. So going back to some updates on our program, there's still, there we go. Thank you. You're fine. It moved one more time. So you can go back the other way. There we go. Nope. There we are. So our school district, like many other school districts, and I just actually read statistics this morning that about 95 to 96% of all school districts across the country are still struggling with disruption of food, staffing problems, and just money issues in general. So we're not struggling with any of those, but we do feel the pressure that it's not like a normal school year. So the disruption in the food chain, we do have it's actually a daily thing where we will get notification from all of our vendors. We've got 5 or 6 vendors that we work very closely with, but we'll get notification from them on a daily, if not weekly basis on what food is available and is not available. We usually put in uh, uh, up to 2 to 3 months in advance exactly what we believe that we're going to need that for our menus and how much we're going to need. And, you know, every single week for sure, if not daily, we will be told what we can and can't purchase. So a lot of it has to do with obviously COVID, but it comes from not only the distribution problems where staffing is difficult for trucking companies to bring food in, but also COVID has shut down many manufacturing sites, so they don't even have the opportunity to have staff to make the food in order for it to be shipped to us. So we're pretty flexible, and we do have our little saying at the bottom that menus are subject to change. I will say that we're very happy that we have never gone a day without being able to feed the children a complete nutritious meal, which is our goal absolutely every single day. Students at the high school level may not get exactly what they want, their very favorite meal. Like I said earlier, the spicy chicken sandwiches and chicken sandwiches have been number one for at least the last 6 or 7 years. And so they may not be able to get that every single time, but they're still being able to be fed nutritious meals. Barb, next slide, please. So some upcoming challenges for this school year. The state commodities are also having distribution issues. So we purchase from the state as well as from our private vendors. And the state too has also had issues with chicken patties, chicken nuggets. The state will not be able to supply us with those items for the rest of the school year, but we still are able to get those items here and there from our private vendor, which is good. So we'll get a regular chicken patty and then we'll just make it spicy ourselves. We'll just add some hot sauce to it, and the kids seem to be okay with that since they do love their spicy food. It'll be hit and miss with US Foods, which is our main food vendor, with beef patties as well. Again, it goes back to the challenges that we've had with distribution. And normally we have a stock about 2 to 3 months of food in the warehouse, and due to different shortages, we're down about a 1 month supply, but I'm not worried. That's still plenty of time for us to get food in. And then we're testing more scratch recipes all the time just to make sure that we can get creative with the food that we have. Next slide, please, Barb. So here are the meal counts, and I'm actually going to look at my own page because those numbers are hard to read. So these are the meal counts from August to November over the past 4 years. So if you notice in 2018, we were about 762,000 lunches. And then 19 was 718,000. And then the pandemic, where it really hurt us a lot, we dropped about 621,000 lunches. Most of our lunch numbers went down when we were doing hybrid because it was just, there was kids coming and going. A lot of parents had gone back to work, I think, and it was difficult for kiddos to get meals. But we bounced a lot back from this August to November, where we're nearly where we were in 2018, which I'm really proud. But if you look at the blue line on August to November 2021, that represents breakfast, which has almost doubled, which we're really, really proud of. And that's not putting in the breakfast after the bell is not completely 100% up and running at the moment, but we still our breakfast numbers have gone up quite a bit, which I'm really excited about, because I truly believe that you should not skip breakfast, and it's the most important meal of the day. So our numbers look great. Trevor had asked me just a little earlier today what the total number of meals were since the pandemic in 2020. So March 2020 to current is 3,325,600 meals, and that is breakfast and lunch combined. So we're pretty proud of that. There's a lot of kiddos out there that have been able to get healthy meals thanks to our staff. So we're really, really pleased with those numbers. Barb, the next slide, please. Is that the end of the slides? I think there we go, staffing shortages. Okay. So as the entire school district, we have had some staffing shortages, more so in the last couple of weeks, but we're all, I think, feeling the pinch here and there. So we've gotten to a little creative when we're collaborating with SPED students. Actually, obviously, currently not this week. As soon as things calm down and we can all be back in the buildings again, we will continue this. But we're working with SPED students in a partnership, especially at Davis High School and then Eisenhower High School, where the kiddos that are high functioning, they can either come in and just work for us, or the ones that are really on top of it and can be they're more high functioning. We could actually end up hiring them, which is really exciting. So they have to be over the age of 18. They'll have to be able to learn to fill out a meal, or not a meal application, excuse me, a job application, and go through the actual hiring process. So we think that'll really help them to prepare. So that program is in the works right now. So we're also, that we'll be able to hire any other student too that can work part-time, that as long as it obviously doesn't interfere with their school schedule, but we'll be able to do that as well. And then we're still, I'm not sure actually if the MOU has been signed or not, but because of our lack of staff or staff shortages, our fresh fruit and vegetable program, which we prepare first thing in the morning, we've had some shortages there. So we will be working with some parapros. I think they're contracted 6.5 or 7 hours a day. So they'll be able to, if they're interested, work an hour helping prepare the fresh fruit and vegetable programs first thing in the morning prior to their shift. So that still is in the works, but we're glad to have them helping us along the way. So, and then finally, we're working with students in alignment with our strategic plan. So we have a student action group now that has been put together, and let me grab that. Here it is. So we've got I believe it's 4 students that I can't tell what school they're from, but there's 4 students that we're working with, and I'll be setting up times to meet with them. Actually, I was going to do that this week, and with the pandemic, I have not contacted them, but some of the sorry, I just lost my train of thought here. Some of the subject matters that we're going to be looking into, and we'll let the students decide what they would like to focus on, but it's conducting student satisfaction surveys to improve food selection and new ideas for food and recommendations, study and plan how to improve food waste, different art projects that will help the improvement of the visual appearance of the cafeterias, and then create a marketing for Healthy Pro, which is our menu application that we use for school lunches and events, and have different theme days. So when I meet with them, hopefully within the next few weeks, we'll present these to them and see what they would like to work on first, and we'll go from there. So I'm really excited working with the students. I haven't worked with students. I haven't been out in the buildings for 10 or 12 years. So I'm really looking forward to being able to work with students again on that. And I think, is there one more, or are we done? Okay. I am here for questions if anybody would like to ask.
Thank you, Cassie. That was a great presentation. It's been a while since we've heard from our nutrition services group, and it's encouraging to hear, not that you're having challenges, but that you're thinking outside of the box and reacting to those challenges in a way that's going to be supportive of our students. So thank you for that. Any questions from board members?
Hi, Cassie. I have a question regarding the breakfast numbers. Those are quite high numbers, particularly that they, like you indicated, they've almost doubled. Can you give us a sense of why you think that is, or what's changed that's resulted in that increase?
I think it's just more accessible now, and we have changed our menu just slightly, not a whole lot, basically because of distribution. But we've got we don't do a lot of cereals anymore. One, because they're not available. We do like breakfast breads, which the students like, granola bars, those types of things, grab and go type items. And that could be part of it. But I think we're just out there a little bit more, and the students know more about breakfast. We did do National School Breakfast Week last year, which we haven't done for several years, and it just really broadens the awareness of the students. So I think that has something to do with it as well. But we would just want to. I actually, to tell you the truth, I think too, when we were doing virtual school, or excuse me, the hybrid, not virtual, but when we're doing hybrid, we delivered breakfast to the classrooms then, and we're going to go back to that this next fall. But I think that really, it gave the students the chance to see what we served, and just kind of open their eyes to what we're doing. So we haven't done that this school year, but our numbers are still rising. So I think last year during the hybrid session, that really opened the eyes of some of the students to see what we have available. So I'm really looking forward to this next school year in the fall, when we can bring that on 100% to have breakfast after the bell in different capacities. But my goal then is to have breakfast be equal what the lunch numbers are. So we're hoping for that.
And do you have a sense of whether it's elementary or middle or high school that is that where you've seen the most increase in breakfast?
Definitely in elementary school. It's a little more focused audience. When we would take the meals to the classroom, they had the opportunity right then and there to say yes or no, I want a breakfast. So I think that really was it. It was easier when you have a focus group. And I think maybe potentially a little peer pressure too. If you've got 20 students who are eating breakfast and there's 5 that aren't, they may want to say, yes, I'm gonna eat breakfast because my friends are eating breakfast as well. So it's easier to cater to them, if you will. The middle school students and high school students, they come in, they go whichever direction it is when they come into the building. So we do have kiosks that we plan on serving at different entrances into the building for this next school year, and we're prepared for that for the secondary. But so at that point, hopefully our numbers will rise then in the secondary buildings.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for your
Absolutely.
presentation. It's always good to hear a little bit more detail about the different programs that we have throughout the district. And kudos to you and your team for the 300 or the 3 million plus meals that we've served since the pandemic started. Those are really impressive numbers. And I recall seeing some news articles indicating that we even served more meals than Seattle School District, which I think is one of the biggest districts we have in the state. So thank you so much for you and your staff and the commitment that you all have had in ensuring that our kids are able to eat, even when maybe we weren't able to hold school. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Stacy has her hand raised.
Martha, you're muted.
At some point, I'm going to learn about that mute button. Any other questions from board members?
No,
Okay.
just to thank you for all your hard work, Cassie, and your team. It's
Absolutely.
really impressive what you've accomplished over the last couple of years.
Thank you very much. I love what I do, and it makes it easy that way. So thank you very much.
And under not such great circumstances, right?
It has been challenging, yes, but I think I work well under pressure, and so it's worked to my advantage, I believe.
Perfect. Stacy, you've got your hand up.
I do, President Rice. I'd just like to give a shout out to Cassie and our child nutrition services. I've had the privilege of working with them over the last couple of years, and I can't tell you how impressed I am with her leadership training for her staff and her crew, her attention to detail. She's always on top of everything, and she's a problem solver. When she's faced with these challenges, she goes out and she problem solves and finds ways to still provide meals to our kids, regardless of what she runs into. She just keeps going and going and going like that little ever ready bunny, and I can't appreciate the work she's done for our kids in our community. She is just one heck of a leader. And I just wanted to be able to give that shout out. Thank you, Martha.
Thank you, Stacy.
And our student tonight, Leonelle, weighed in and said, thank you so much, Cassie.
Oh, absolutely. You're the reason I'm here.
Oh, thank you so much.
Any other questions from board members? I see that Ryan has joined us. Thank you, Ryan. We do have a copy of your presentation, Cassie. So if after we are done here, if we go back and look at that presentation and have questions, we can get a hold of you and ask?
Absolutely, anytime.
Perfect. All right. As I told Leonelle, you're welcome to stay, but we understand if you have other things tugging at you. So we won't be offended if you have to leave, but you are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like to.
Okay, thank you. I will stay.
Okay. Next on our agenda are reports. So first, reports from members of the board. Any board members have anything they'd like to share with the rest of the board?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Ryan, do you have anything?
Nothing tonight, Martha. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Just in case you were hiding in a cave or something for the last week or so, the legislature has started its short session. It started on the 11th. Things are fast and furious over in Olympia right now because it's only a 60-day session and they've committed to getting all the way through everything that they have to do in that 60 days. So time runs pretty quickly on a short session year. They are all virtual again this year. Public is not allowed on the Capitol campus. So all of the testimony is remote or virtual. And I'll be testifying on Thursday morning for a bill regarding the community eligibility provision program. A couple of years ago, there was a bill that passed that required districts or schools or groups of schools who had a minimum of 62.5% free and reduced lunch. It required them to apply for the CEP program, which is a federal program through the Department of Agriculture. We have been a CEP district for a long time. Cassie, well over 10 years, right?
I think it's 8 or 9.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah. It was 2013. So 2022 is
9 years then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what that does is it allows districts to provide breakfasts and lunches to students at no cost to their families. For us, it's a full reimbursement for our meal program. For a district or that has some schools in and some schools out of that threshold, it wouldn't be a district-wide. They would have to average up to more than 62.5%. But the bill that I'm testifying for on Thursday at WASDA's request is changes that minimum threshold to 40%. So any school, groups of schools, or district that averages 40% free and reduced lunch or more would be required to apply to the CEP program. So there are a number of schools and districts in the state now that are a part of that program. And I just think for us, it's been a lifesaver for a lot of our students. Our numbers, our lunch and breakfast numbers just skyrocketed after we joined the CEP program because Well, for a lot of reasons, families either didn't want to or couldn't file the free and reduced lunch paperwork. And so now their students can eat without necessarily filing that paperwork. And at the middle school and high school, there was a stigma attached to being identified as a free and reduced lunch student. And so kids just didn't eat lunch. They claimed that they weren't hungry at lunchtime. But when we became a CEP district, as many of you know, the numbers just went through the roof because now everybody could eat. And I think it's one of the best decisions that we as a district made to join that program and make sure that kids receive nutritional meals at least twice a day. So I expect that that I may be called to testify on other bills because of because we're Yakima and we have a lot going for us, and we're pretty well known over in Olympia, so we'll see. But if board members wish to stay up to date on what's going on in Olympia, there is a weekly email that comes out that will give you the bill watch list that will tell you what's going on, what bills to watch for, and so forth. So I think that's all I have. Yeah. Okay. Any questions from board members on that? Okay. Next on our agenda is the superintendent's update. Dr. Green.
Thank you, President Rice and members of the board. As you know, we are in day one of our return to remote learning for 5 days. I'm happy to report that the transition went very smoothly. I was able to speak with numerous principals today and had reports of anywhere from a low number of one staff member being in building to half of the staff members being in building, with a report of anywhere from up to 50% in attendance to well over 90% in attendance. So the overall consensus was that the shift back here for 5 days went well this first day, and phone calls are being made to those that did not transition as hoped. But as compared to our previous transition, this has gone much, much smoother. The character word, we're in a new month now, and the character word this month is inquisitive. It is given to examination or investigation, inclined to ask questions. So this is the perfect character word for the board, to be very inquisitive. And switching to Spanish, inquisitivo, dado a indagar o investigar, inclinado a hacer preguntas. The trait is critical thinker and problem solver. La característica es pensador crítico y solucionador de problemas. So we're happy to take that forward this month as the district's character word. At this time, we will enter into our COVID update, first with Jewel Brumley, Assistant Principal at Davis High School, followed by our Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Stacy Locke. Jewel?
Thank you, Superintendent Green. Our COVID cases, as everybody understands, are going up. This is December to the beginning here of January. The December numbers are pretty dwarfed by our latest January numbers. Today we had 1,076 new cases in the county. Our 14-day rate as of today is 3,077 per 100,000. You can see the steady climb since January 1st. Our 7-day rate is 1,952. Again, a steady upward climb since the beginning of January.
vaccinated versus unvaccinated cases in the county. It's, it's more than double. It's almost 3 times as much to get COVID if you're unvaccinated versus vaccinated. The zip code rates haven't been updated since January 3rd. So I think the health district is a little overwhelmed with all the numbers. And so they're updating daily numbers, but not the zip code rates right now. So hopefully next week we'll get those. Hospitalizations have gone up. When I presented to you a week ago, they had stayed steady at about 24, but now they're in the 40s. We're at 46 today. So they keep going up. Hospitalizations, again, vaccinated versus unvaccinated. It's almost 10 times as high. And then this again has not been updated. Our deaths in January, it says 6 here, but we had 6 new cases, 6 new deaths over the weekend. So it's at 12 for January. Our hospitalization by age, I'll point out that although they not always hospitalized here in Yakima, we do have 4 children hospitalized 0 to 11 and 3 12 to 19, which is up significantly from anything we've had in the past. School age cases as of last week, not last year, and new students and staff, but again, those will have to be updated this week because they're keep climbing. So we'll get those new rates tomorrow, probably. Our vaccinations have, they go up every week. They go up either a 1/10, sometimes they go up a 2/10, and then other weeks, there was 2 weeks in December where they didn't grow up at all every week. So this has gone up 1/10% since last week. Again, went up 1/10% for the 12 and up initiating the vaccine. Fully vaccinated 54.2. I expect that'll probably go up another 1/10. The boosters in Yakima County have gone from 17% last week to 21% this week of people initiating the booster shot, getting the booster shot. So that has climbed. Our 5 to 11-year-olds, this was updated the beginning of January. They have not updated it since then, but we're at 12%. I suspect we're probably at, this jumps at least 2% a time, so it'll probably go up to 14 or 15% next week when they update. Okay, this is the forecast data that I showed you a week ago, and I was pretty on tap with what was going on until this weekend. And so if you see that number, it really spiked this weekend. So I took those numbers, I calculated the reference number, which is like the R0 number, and we're at 2.4. So for every 1 person that gets COVID, 2.4 will probably get COVID from them. So if you go to the next one, this is the updated forecast that goes all the way into the end of February, based on, getting 1,000 cases, over 1,000 cases today, 815 on Sunday. So our cases are still going up, expected to peak towards the end of the month. And then according to the data from the UK and from other countries, it comes down fairly fast. And this is also indicated by early numbers of New York and LA that they think have reached the peak and are coming down a little bit right now. So that's why it's forecasted to come down fairly quickly. Any questions?
Any questions for Jewel? Those numbers are pretty darn scary. Okay, Stacy?
Thank you, President Rice. So you will be able to see that we are mirroring what is happening in Yakima County. If you were to look at last week, we only had 2 schools in double digits. And as you can see now, most of our elementary schools are in double digits. And of course, we ended up having to close Barge and Robertson and Adams last week early, just due to staffing shortages. Barb, please. In the other half of the graph here, you see that our middle schools and our high schools are not quite as bad with the percentage. But we had, in the last couple of weeks, we've had over 4,800 student positives, 137 staff positives. We have over 1,400 kids quarantined, which is about a 9.4% of our population, student population is quarantined at this time. So this is a biggie. Last week when I presented, we had conducted for the first week of, and granted there was some snow, but for the first week of January, we conducted 409 tests. Last week, we increased by about 470%. We conducted 1,924 tests. The week before, we had 104 positives. Last week, we had 504. This week, we had 504 positives. That was an increase of 480%. And our positivity rate went up a percentage to 26%. And we're also, we managed to have a few tests left to test staff today. And we ended up with 41% of our staff that did test today at our site testing positive. And additionally, due to the nationwide shortages, we're going to be unable to open our site to our students and family members this week during remote. We are waiting for a shipment of about 5,000 tests. And so we're still able to accommodate our staff by appointment only. So again, we are still conducting those tests, and of the tests we conduct, 41% are positive. So we did have a vaccine clinic at Central Services today. We are continuing to offer those. They are posted on the website. We have one Thursday at Eisenhower from 5 to 7. And we have one next Wednesday at, next Wednesday at Washington from 5 to 7. And we will continue to schedule those. We are encouraging our staff to go and get their booster shots. As the guidance has changed from the CDC and DOH, in order to be able to not have to quarantine, you now have to have had a booster shot. If you have only had the 2 shots of Pfizer or Moderna, or the 1 shot of Johnson & Johnson, that is not considered adequate to not have to quarantine if you are a close contact with a positive case. And so that causes some distress on trying to keep kids and staff at work and kids in school. Any questions?
Questions from board members? Thank you, Stacy.
You're welcome. Patty, I was trying to speak slowly.
Okay, Trevor?
Thank you, President Rice. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Jewel. Your efforts really do help us understand what we're facing. And thankfully, the vaccine is available. It seems that it's increasing at a very, very slow rate. So those who have wanted to have access, it appears, have been able to get access. And it's interesting to see what will happen here coming in the next few weeks. But thank you again. We're going to move now to our monthly attendance report. So after, on the heels of switching to remote and recognizing the infection rate increasing, I'll invite Shelby Lockhart to take over and present to the board. Shelby?
Thank you, Dr. Green. So just a quick reminder of our goal, our long-term goal of the 95% regular attendance by 2026. This year, we are focusing on a 79% attendance rate, regular attendance rate. Go ahead, Barb. And so the question is, where do we stand? As of a couple days ago, we pulled this a couple days ago, and we have about 3,291 students that are under that goal of 79% attendance, and 12,875 that met that goal. A breakdown of ranges of absences. You can see we've got a good group of students who are in the 0 to about 2 weeks absent range. And then we have quite a few in the middle. And then, excuse me, we have a subgroup who are pretty disengaged, but we have some tier 3 and kind of wraparound support and citywide coalitions doing some initial work around this group of students who are in the red. And then our regular breakdown by elementary school. And remember, this is the 79% goal. So you can see quantities or numbers of students who have met that goal and who are under that goal. And then our secondary schools as well. Can keep going, Barb. I think that's it.
Thank you, Shelby. Any
Mhm.
questions from board members?
Shelby, I may have missed this. Could you explain the 79% goal instead of the 95% once again for the board?
Yeah, we had talked about that last month of trying to take incremental steps towards that 95% goal in 2026. So, you know, this year's gone a lot different than we thought it would. And so to have the goal of 95% this year started to maybe make us feel on day 9 like failures. So we wanted to just take some incremental steps and look at year by year, how could we grow towards that 95%?
Thank you, Shelby. And the answer obviously is this is a goal for 2026, and we're looking at those incremental steps. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board? All right, I thank you, Shelby.
You're welcome.
I'd also inform the board that we have determined the days that will be made up because of the 2 snow days and the staffing shortage. So they are found actually in the board information. January 24th, which is next Monday, was a day between semesters, and it was not a day that we were to attend school. Will now be a day held, and that 24th will be held remotely. So that is scheduled to be our last day of remote online learning, or I'm sorry, remote learning, and then we'd enter back into school on the 25th in person. The other days, we were scheduled in June to finish a half day on the 15th of June. The 15th would be a full day now. The 16th would be a full day. And then the 17th would be a half day. And that would take us, the last day of school would be the 17th. It's a Friday on that week. Do you have any questions? All right, so a couple more items before I turn this over to a special guest tonight. I do want to share that yesterday we had the Martin Luther King Jr. program, the celebration. And I know that we had at least one board member present, so that was wonderful to see. But I also wanted to inform the board that we had the following people that were on the agenda and on the program outline and did participate. We had the Pledge of Allegiance in English and ASL, American Sign Language, was Sage Peterson and Damian Mendez from Whitney Elementary. We had the Pledge of Allegiance in Spanish, led by Jesse Avelino and Adelaide Vargas from Barge Lincoln Elementary. We had the national anthem. It was sung by Noel Cisneros from AC Davis High School. And we had student speakers, Cleo Cook from AC Davis High School and Elisabeth Almenea from Eisenhower High School. And then lastly, we had the Lee Pageant Food Drive Award introduction by both of our high school principals, Heather Hasty and Eric Diner. So there was a strong presence at the Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. And I want to thank all of our students and our staff members that did participate. We did receive a grant that I simply want to inform the board of, and it was put in by by Marcello Scambolari with College Spark Washington, which is a philanthropic organization in Seattle, focused on equity. And we received a 3-year grant for $180,000 for the next 3 years to advance work of the Superintendent Student Advisory Council. So they were very interested in the work that has been taking place there. And we will have a report later on about what that looks like. Lastly, I would like to turn the time over to Marcello. And I understand that there's some information that he would like to share on behalf of the district with the board. Marcello?
Yes, as you're well aware, it's a Board Appreciation Month, and so we just wanted to bring some students in. 2 of these 3 students are in the Student Advisory Council, and they just want to give a quick thank you. So I won't take any more time than I need to, and I'll pass it over to them to give a quick thank you to the board for all the work that you do. I think they're all here. Let me double check.
Yeah, hello.
Oh, perfect.
I wasn't sure if what was his name? That was Lionel was his name, right? Was that his name?
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if you wanted to go first or. Okay, well, hello, my name is Sydney Hager. I'm a representative from Eisenhower, and I wanted to give you all a great big thank you. We'd like to thank the board for all they do every day in service of the students of the Yakima School District. We know it's not an easy job and that you volunteer much of your time and service to make our community stronger and better. We are especially thankful for the district's focus on preparing us for our future lives, helping us to learn skills for different career and college paths. We have appreciated being able to develop many life skills around technology and financial literacy. The board and district's focus on career and technical education has also been really important to us. We also want to thank the board for its focus on community service and activities like Trunk or Treat, school drives, Toys for Tots, internet for all families, laptops for every family, and free COVID testing. Through our leadership class, we had a giving tree for the holiday season. We had many students participate, building up a stronger community at our school. At our school, we also have access to free healthcare products. And, where am I? Oh, excuse me. We also have access to free healthcare products, and our counselors are constantly connected to us, helping us with our life plans. These community services are an amazing thing to show how much the board cares about and supports not only our education, but our community and whole selves. We have also been strong supporters of the district and board's focus on equity. We have seen clubs form around identities, girls of color, and mental health. This focus on our mental and social health has been an important part of our school lives.
And sorry, Sydney, could you just slow down a little bit? The translator is getting behind. So
Okay, sorry.
you can just speak a little bit slower as you go. Just take some breaths in between. You're doing great, though. Great job. Keep it up.
Where was I? Okay, I'll take it back to here. We have also been strong supporters of the district and board's focus on equity. We have seen some clubs form around identity, girls of colors, and mental health. This focus on our mental and social health has been an important part of our school lives. We have also seen the board and district's focus on supporting our academics through the pandemic in our classrooms. Teachers have been doing an outstanding job of making sure every student is being supported, getting resources they need, and catching up through the pandemic. We know that this is because you, the board, and our district are working with our schools to make sure we all still learn and grow during these times. We are very thankful for all the Yakima School District provides for us and for our community, and this wouldn't be possible without the board. We want to thank you so much for everything you do every day for our students and our community.
Oh, so
Thank you, Sydney.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Lionel, you can go.
Well, honestly, I would like to thank you so much. I firsthand can say that I saw how the board really is worried about the people, about how their well-being, if their necessities are taken done, and not only that, like all the opportunities that is given to us as students, and not just the students, as the family in whole. I am so grateful. I have been a privilege to be working with the Yakima School District, and I saw firsthand how they actually do truly care. So I am very grateful for all that.
Thank you, Lionel. And then we did have Amelia Ortiz from Davis. I don't see her name here. I don't know if she's under someone else, but she may just not be here tonight. But it looks like maybe she wasn't able to make it. So that will conclude the student part. But yes, thank you guys so much for everything you do. I'm definitely a witness to it and all the amazing projects that you push forward in the Yakima School District. So thank you so much from me and the students.
Thank you, Marcello, and thank you, Lionel and Sydney. It's very kind of you to take time out of your busy schedules to be with us here this evening and to say such nice things. Thank you so much.
President Rice, that concludes the superintendent update.
Thank you, Dr. Green. I was reminded that I need to go back to reports from the board because, of course, there's one thing that I forgot. After our retreat last week, I was asked if the board does a self-evaluation of the retreat itself and our process. And we've not done that in the past. So there were some questions suggested, and I just wanted to make sure that they're in accordance with our policy that 3 board members have to agree on an action, that we do have 2 other board members that would agree that doing a self-evaluation survey of the retreat would be a good idea.
I would support that.
So would I.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll put the questions out. I don't know where Barb is. I know she's here. She's skulking about.
She's
There
here.
she is. Right
Yes.
in the middle of my screen. I missed her.
Sorry.
Can we get that survey out tomorrow then?
You bet.
Okay, perfect.
It'll come out on a Survey Monkey like the rest of the surveys come out.
Okay. And then perhaps we could have that back in time to discuss at our meeting on the 31st.
Yeah, we could set a deadline for sometime next week, probably the 25th or 26th.
Okay.
I'll put it on
That
there.
sounds good to me. Thank you, Barb.
You bet.
Okay, thanks for letting me do a U-turn. Next on our agenda is a presentation on the modified calendar. Mr. Superintendent, do you want to lead into this?
Certainly. Thank you, President Rice. We're happy to share with you this evening a presentation by our Executive Director of HR, Will Surratt, who has been working with our YEA and District Joint Committee to come up with a calendar for the next school year, 2022-2023, for the board to review and approve next month. There is no action to be taken, I believe, on this calendar today. It is simply to present to the board. So with that, I will turn the time over to Will for the following presentation. Will?
Thank you, Superintendent Green. Good evening, members of the board. And Barb, thank you for bringing up the calendar presentation. This may look familiar to some of you. This will be an abbreviated version of some of the information that I shared with you at the retreat. As a refresher, the committee members from the YEA side were Francis Guerrero, who's a teacher at Eisenhower High School, Emily Frazier, teacher at Washington Middle School, and Ann Chapman, teacher at MLK Elementary, and then Maria Lucero, principal at MLK, Bill Hilton. I need to slow down. I can already hear myself. Principal at Washington Middle School, and Eric Diner, principal at Eisenhower High School. Barb, if you could advance that for me, please, or can I do it somehow? Did we lose Barb? Oh, there we go. I wanted to touch briefly on research around modified calendars. John Hattie is a researcher that we often quote in education, who's a meta-researcher. He takes studies that others have done and pulls them together to find things in education that move student learning forward and things that aren't as effective to move student learning forward. So he has 252 different influences that are ranked around education, and modified calendars is one of those things. Barb, if you would advance that to the next slide, please. Modified calendars just in and of themselves, moving days around the school year, Hattie found, as did other researchers, had a low impact on student learning. 0.40 was the hinge point that Hattie identified to say that these are things that have a direct impact. Modified calendars he found had a 0.09, so below the 0.4. And again, this is just calendars in and of themselves. But when we add quality intercession of a modified calendar, then the effects of intercessions in student learning is much stronger. We also queried the community. We had, through a thought exchange, we had 1,797 participants who generated 1,821 thoughts, provided 31,075 ratings on those thoughts. And the participant categories that we saw were parents, people that identified themselves as a parent or guardian of a Yakima School District student. And then you can see the breakdown with the slashes are the number of participants in that category, the thoughts that group generated, and the number of ratings that group provided. And if a person identified as a specific group, they got to see the thoughts of everyone else of that group, but they didn't cross over into other groups. So we had 568 people identify as YSD instructional staff, 220 YSD support staff, 223 YSD students, 54 community members, and again, 732 parent, guardian participants. And as part of that survey, we asked the question, what is the level of impact that the YSD school calendar has in your life? And part of the idea with thought exchange is to be broad, to try to generate thought and see where people land. And so for this group, this is everybody that was queried. 60% of the people felt that the calendar had a high level of impact on their life. Go ahead, Barb. And then the Thought Exchange platform will group thoughts for us. This slide is the highest rated thoughts or the highest ranked thoughts. And rather than read them, I'll let the board look through them. I don't feel like I want to do play-by-play narration of each of the slides, but you can see these were our highest ranked out of all of the thoughts. This next slide, we're grouped with the keyword parents as the most pinged, I guess is the right word. This, again, thoughts from parents around student shared custody, child care concerns, amongst those top three. This next slide, the focus was on the keyword intercession. Concerns around student attendance and intercessions. And a reference back to a previous attempt. These next slides will compare two sides of a topic. In this case, the modified calendar, and the keyword is over summertime. So you can see side A, people feeling one way about it. Side B, not a lot of comments. And then the middle is where they supported each other on thoughts. Next slide, same thing in the keyword around summer and breaks. And then the, Barb, can you go back one slide? On the top right-hand corner, you can see the number of people that were in support of side A of an argument and side B in green, the number of people. And speaking of intercessions, here's the information around our high school intercessions right around the winter holiday. It's the Eisenhower High School. We had 350 students scheduled, and students at least attended one day, 198 out of them, then 350. Davis, 185, and 105 attended at least one day. And Stanton scheduled 50 and had 39 average daily attendance. I believe the board has already been presented with the calendar option that the committee has come up with. So you'll have that. I'm not sure about displaying that, Barb, for this, but I've got some thoughts, yeah, here that we're going to talk about. So the committee wanted to make sure that the board knew around staff feedback, because the YEA ran surveys as well as the thought exchange, or in concert with the thought exchange. And this went to district employees. And so 70% felt that the need to provide at least 8 consecutive weeks for summer work activities, vacations was still very important. The proposed end date for the academic calendar year that the calendar committee has proposed still allows 8 weeks for summer learning activities, vacations, etc. The surveys that the YEA ran has also felt 80% felt that the placement of a late February intercession is an important placement because it allows students that begin the second semester of academic work to get more work done and to identify skills gaps, I guess you could call it, so that intercessions could be more supportive versus putting an intercession right at the beginning of a semester or of an academic term. Go ahead, Barb. And lastly, our staff or the staff in the survey real challenges of work during the pandemic with seemingly weekly changes to working conditions, student contact, et cetera, which I'm sure you're all super familiar with challenges, but that to the point that many staff were questioning their career choice, and that this calendar, while it may not seem as a momentous thing to propose, really feels weighty to a lot of our staff right now. So we came to, or the group came to an agreement again. I facilitated, or one of the facilitators, I wasn't a voting member of the committee, but came to the point that we would maintain our current modified calendar with intercessions around the holiday, a February intercession, and intercession offered over spring break. And I know that was brief, so I'm more than prepared to answer questions or take other feedback from the board.
Any questions from board members? Will, do we have any members of the committee with us tonight?
I heard from several that said they were going to watch over the live stream, but I don't see.
That doesn't help us if we have questions for the committee.
I just
Okay.
I just have a couple comments just based on, you gave us a brief presentation during our retreat. And my understanding is that the committee for years has been promising research to the board, and I haven't seen a lot of I want to dig deeper into Hattie's research and the mega research myself and see what's there. But when we say this is a modified calendar, I would just say barely modified calendar. We really haven't moved very far. And I'm still, just personally, I haven't decided how I'm going to vote, but just personally, I'm really intrigued by the 45 on, 15 off type of calendar with a serious intercession, and then also time for a break even after the intercession. And that sounds like that's not being considered very much by our staff. But the other just thing that strikes me just now is that this comes mostly from staff, the feedback, and I would be curious to see a little more data from our families of the families of kids that are struggling, and also to find out why, if we have kids that are struggling and failing continually, but the comment that I see here is, well, they wouldn't come to intercession anyway. Well, maybe that's because we don't make the intercessions look really attractive, or we don't intervene in a meaningful way. So I just still have a lot of questions. I'm not real excited about perpetuating and I understand the logic of that a calendar alone does not make for student success, that there's a lot more that goes into it. But I'm really kind of disappointed that we have a community of students that are not achieving at the level that we need to have them achieving. And we're just back to more of the same. And I think we need to think a little tougher on this. And I think our staff needs to think a little tougher on this. And I'm not real happy at the moment about where we are.
Thank you, Norm. Any other comments from board members or questions? Okay.
Martha, if I may.
Sure, Ryan, go ahead.
Well, I kind of, I think we have two conversations going on sort of at the same time. One is in relation to the calendar that's being presented for next year, and one is in kind of a long-term goal for a conversation about a calendar here in the community in general. And so I think it's probably smart that we make some sort of a differentiation there between the two, because I think there's a lot of opportunity and potential down the road. I'm hearing a lot about the conversations the board has had in the past about a modified calendar, and I'm very intrigued by it. I want to study it a little further myself. But I recognize we're talking about what's going on right now and what's going on next year. I think what bothers me the most is if we go back to the slides, Will, that you had for us last week at the retreat, and then again tonight. One of the top rated comments, I think it was the second comment on the first slide of comments, was it starts out something to the effect of, "Please don't take away our summers," and then it elaborates, and then at the end, the comment is, "The system is fine as it is." And I can't in good faith agree with that. I have heard from too many families in this community and too many taxpayers in this community to agree with that statement. And I think that if we look at some of our metrics, whether it's dropping enrollment numbers or our test scores in general, we all need to realize that we have room for improvement, and we can embrace that, and we can celebrate it, and we can strive toward it every single day. And I struggle with that being one of the top rated comments. But I do think we really need to, keep that long-term approach for the modified calendar conversation. And I think we should try to separate it from the calendar we're looking at here right now. But I'm hopeful. I think there's a lot of opportunity and there's a lot of room for growth. And I seriously hope that everyone who is involved in that conversation is as hopeful as I am.
Thank you, Ryan. Any other comments or questions from board members?
Martha, yeah. I'll just add, I certainly agree with the comments that my fellow board members have made. I think as a board, we've been hoping to see some more data, more research, and more movement with the calendar that we see each year in January and February. I recognize that COVID certainly has been challenging for all of the adults in the school system and for our kids. I appreciate that the calendar that is being presented is slightly modified. There's a couple of extra days that were not on last year's calendar. I think incremental progress is good. Think that there is much more that we can do both with the calendar and in other areas to continue to focus on student outcomes and student achievement. I agree with Ryan's comments. This is a long-term movement, if you will, to get us to a place where our students are high achieving, where we're minimizing student summer learning loss, and other things that impact the achievement of our students. So I think there's a lot more work that we can do together. Appreciate that there's a little bit of movement, and hope that we can continue to have this discussion as we move forward.
Thank you, Graciela. Just for those of you who haven't been on the board as long as some of the rest of us have, the board has been asking for changes to the calendar for over 5 years now. And every year, either there's no change or there's 1 or 2 days worth of change. As I looked at the calendar that was presented to us last week, it occurred to me that the intercessions, let me back up again. It occurred to me that there are no intercessions that are not tied to a holiday weekend or a holiday period. And none of the intercessions that I can, from my research with this calendar, have anything to do with a quarter end or a semester end. They're all at some point, either before the quarter ends or after the quarter ends, and we still have that great big period of time from when school starts at the end of August to the first break at the end of November for Thanksgiving, where there's no time in there, no time built in there for students to either make up work or catch up work or prepare themselves for the new school year after they haven't been in school for 8 weeks over the summer. I am disappointed with this calendar. I will tell you that, and I'm on public record saying that. I get it that it's been a tough year for everybody, but it's been a tough year for our students as well. And I think as adults, we need to set our students as a priority. I think this calendar is pretty adult-centered and not very student-centered. I wish that we could have had members of the committee here tonight so that we could ask them questions as to their process and why the calendar looks the way it does as was presented to us. I'm hoping that we can have them here for our February meeting. But I think I've probably said my piece on the calendar at this point, and I know that Raymond's not here tonight, but he might have some input on it between now and the business meeting in February. This is presented to us for first reading at this point, and we will have it in front of us for second reading and possible approval at the February business meeting. Anything else from board members on this?
Yeah, I do want to thank the committee for their work. I know that it's not an easy task that you've undertaken. And, sometimes even arguing with myself, I realize that making these kinds of changes coming through COVID and all the challenges that we've had, change is hard and it's stressful. And, it's not, I wouldn't seek to put more stress on our staff and on our families. But at the same time, I really think we haven't really taken a serious look at what a possible changing calendar might benefit our students. So I think we need to really push that a little hard and push ourselves a little hard and think about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Will, for the presentation. And thank you for the presentation at the retreat last week as well. Next on our agenda is the monthly financial update. Becky?
Well, good evening. Thank you, President Rice. Will, that's a hard presentation to follow. Thankfully, this one will go very smooth for you. There's nothing but normal stuff to report in the finances. A couple of items of interest. Our enrollment, we're still seeing a slight decrease, 102 FTE compared to the November enrollment for our December, and then 51 below the budget. So we're still seeing that decrease, but hopefully we're going to see those students coming back. You'll also see in these yes, we'll take dogs too. We can enroll them. I think they should be a tax write-off. The other thing you'll see in our finances is the purchase of the Yakima Health Cooperative Building. Yay, that was very exciting. And that is in our December expenditures. So go ahead, Barb. Thank you. This is the 5-year enrollment. It's the actual FTE for our K-12 and our ALE program. And this is where you're going to see that 102 decrease between November and December. And next slide. This is the budgeted FTE. This goes against all programs that we offer within the district. And this does look at the average annual FTE. So the AAFTE comparison. We budget, the straight line there is our budget of 15,711. And you can see that currently across all programs, we're at 15,660. So that's the 51 decrease. And this is the revenues. And for, we are trending above last year and just under our budget. And the next slide, please. This is the cash flow. Just a reminder to you, as we spend our ESSER funds, we spend those monies and then we're reimbursed, just as we do with all of our grants. So we spend the funds up front and then we wait for reimbursement. So this is the cash flow that we have. So we're trending just about on target. And this is our total expenditures. So total expenditures were above last year as expected. We're spending our ESSER 2 money and just above where the budget projection was for this month. So the black line is the budget. This is the payroll trend. Oops. Yeah, you're good, Barb. Thank you. The payroll trend, and we are above last year and just above the budget projection. And the next slide is, this is the supplies and materials trending. And this has our new Yakima Health Cooperative building in it. So we are just above the budget in our expenditures. And then our ESSER 2 slide by the 10 points. So you can see that we have 22.6 million available, that top light blue line there. We've expended as of December 31, 12.5 million. We have encumbered or expected to spend an additional 7.8 million with a balance of 2.3 million. So we are doing a great job of utilizing those ESSER 2 dollars. Any questions I can answer for you?
Questions for Becky? I don't see any. Thank you, Becky. Great
You're welcome.
presentation as always.
You're welcome.
Next item on our agenda is the first opportunity for comments from the public on agenda items. I do know that we have one person who signed up to speak on an agenda item, but first I want to go through, I know she knows this, but I'm going to go through the rules anyway. Speakers are asked to introduce themselves and state any affiliations with the district. Commenting on agenda items comes during the first comment period, and then the second comment period will follow shortly thereafter, and that's at the end of the meeting. And that comment period is designed for items that are not on the agenda. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Refrain from discussing the performance of an employee or the interpretation or application of the district's labor agreement, including grievances, and refrain from making derogatory comments about individuals. Bunker, the floor is yours. I know that you have way more than 3 minutes worth of stuff to talk to us about, and I think you're still on mute. But I know that you have provided Barb with a presentation, and I've asked her to share that presentation send that presentation to the rest of the board so that they have it as well. So you don't need to go through every slide with us. Just if you could just kind of hit
No.
the high points within your 3 minutes, that would be great.
Yes, I will do that because I'm Phyllis Bunker Frank. I served on the Yakima School Board for 12 years, a lot of years ago, and 16 years on the State Board of Education. In that journey, I became very connected to all the examination of the school calendar year so that it is the most efficient, effective, and equitable way of dispersing our resources. After all, as school board members, we're responsible to our community, our Yakima community, for best use of resources. And when I realized in '88 that we were planning our calendar for learning loss, lack of efficiency, forgetfulness of our littlest ones in kindergarten, first and second grade, on just school routines, and that up to 4 to 6 weeks are spent in the fall reviewing and retraining kids just to get the new year launched. I'm pleased to say that I was named to the Balanced Calendar Steering Committee that is in effect right now, and that is offering $75,000 grants to districts to disperse, to take a look at their school calendar year. And I know that Yakima is one of the districts in the valley that has applied for those dollars and generated, contribute to generating this thought. I did print out the report ahead of time, and I have to say that as you know, I testified and left written testimony for years. And I am grateful that board members saw through this process to realize that what we don't quite have yet is a calendar that is student directed, that is directed to your vision and your mission, that is directed to optimum operation for students and for faculty. And so Barb, if we could just go back to the graphic, because this relates very much to Will's reference to the Hattie work and what is the year-round people or the balanced calendar people refer to the traditional calendar as, when they talk about Hattie's points, we talk about it in terms of the Fawcett series, the Fawcett theory, excuse me, and that is the leak in the calendar, the 60 days of summer planning, of summer learning loss and planning for loss, and that is a Fawcett, and that is spoken a lot with the Hattie information. And in hearing the report, I, for one, cannot believe that I didn't figure out a way to be one of the 50, to be the 55th community member. Someone will have to tell me offline how I didn't get involved and how I can be involved. As you know, I've advocated, talked about as a special educator, particularly speech and language therapist, about just even getting summer school, whatever that's going to be during that 11-week break in the summer, getting that on the calendar. That's not on this proposed calendar. It makes me think that it wasn't a part of the conversation. So if they talked about intercession and the reference and the resource for that, then how that is another form of supplementary learning. So I guess I'd just close by saying that I agree with you, Norm, and others who thought this was a pretty lukewarm report and a very minimally modified calendar. And I would just cheer you on to dig deeper and ask for an instructional calendar, an academic calendar, and one that also brings teacher job satisfaction. And I would be happy to do a formal presentation anytime with the board, and particularly with that calendar committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Bunker. And as I said, we're going to make sure that board members get a copy of your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks for being with us tonight. Next on our agenda are pre-approval discussions for monitoring reports. The first one being 1000.2.6. This is public access to facilities. All board members responded, and with the exception of one question, and I'll come back to that one, all board members felt that the superintendent was in compliance with the policy, and the board accepted the superintendent's interpretation of the policy. The question that that I wanted to come back to was in regards to whether or not the board discussion on this particular position should be scheduled annually or more frequently. And the other comment that we have is that public access to district facilities should be continually supported, by the district. I do know that we have a staff member who is responsible for being the point of contact for the district with regard to the public requesting access to school district facilities, and understanding that during the pandemic, access has been not as robust as it has been allowed to be in the past, simply because of safety and security protocols that we had to abide by. So the comment that goes with whether annual is sufficient or not for review of this policy reads that ever-changing public health guidelines and the district's response to that guidance creates a need for a more frequent discussion of this policy. The board member that made that comment, does that person wish to elaborate? Or I can just open it up to general discussion as to whether or not annual or semi-annual is appropriate for this particular policy. So let's go with the second part of that question. Do you want to continue to review this policy annually, or would you prefer a more frequent dip into it?
I'm comfortable with an annual renewal or review of this policy.
Others want to weigh in?
I'm also comfortable with an annual review of the policy. I think though policy is clear that we want folks to access facilities, and I think the decisions on how those are accessed are operational in nature, and I think we could give feedback through this monitoring report if we did not think the superintendent was abiding by the policy that we set. So I at this point, I'd be comfortable with continuing with an annual review.
Okay. Anyone else?
Martha, I would, of course, defer to the board on this, but it just seems like the board is never shying away from having conversation about these items, and yet we're also in a world where things change often enough that sometimes we have these conversations, even in the short time I've been here, where it's obvious that the entire board is not on the same page with what is current and what is what has been provided from the state or from the county or from any other institution. So it seems like extra conversation in an area that has such an impact in our community and their satisfaction of, their ability to access our facilities is probably something that would be smart. But if the majority of the board feels that annually is fine, then certainly I'm fine with that.
What we could do is, it's been a while since we've had a short work study topic on the public use of our facilities. Perhaps as a refresher, and certainly for you, Ryan, more complete information than you might get out of this policy, we could ask staff to give us an update on the process, and we could have maybe a deeper discussion at that time during a study session. Would that work?
I'd be in favor of that. Absolutely.
Graciela, Norm, what do you think?
Sure, I think a study session on that would be fine to update all of us on the specifics of that policy and how it's implemented.
Agreed.
It has been okay. Trevor, you've got your hand up.
If
Sorry,
we are,
I didn't
if,
see you.
that's okay. If we are adding a study session, the board should know that we have study sessions scheduled out for well over the next 2 years. So I would also then submit or make the request that I work with you as president of the board to come up with an appropriate time to insert an additional study session.
We can do that. Okay. All right. Anything else on 1000.2.6? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the monitoring report for 2.7, emergency superintendent succession. All 5 board members responded to this survey. All 5 agreed that the superintendent's interpretation of the survey is sufficient. All 5 agreed that the superintendent's the superintendent is in compliance with the various elements of the policy, and there are no comments that were submitted with the survey. Are there any comments at this point from board members? Okay. We have 2 more, but they have to do with board policies. So since these are superintendent policies, our process allows that if there is general agreement on the results of the survey for the monitoring reports, that the board can dispense with approval of the monitoring reports for more than one report in one vote. So I would entertain a motion at this time for approval of the monitoring reports for policy 1000.2.6, public access to facilities, and 1000.2.7, emergency superintendent succession.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Norm, seconded by Graciela. Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Ms. Villanueva,
Yes.
President Rice,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Aye.
Mr. Beckett.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you very much. Next are 2 pre-approval discussions for board policies. The first one being 1000.3.0, Global Governance Commitment. All 5 board members responded to the survey for this discussion. All 5 agreed that the board is in compliance with the various elements of this policy. I'm wondering if there is any discussion amongst board members at this time. Okay. The next one is 1000.3.1 global governing style. This one had some significant comments to it, and the board member that made those comments is not here with us this evening. So if there's no objection, I would suggest moving the discussion for this particular rating report to a future board meeting, probably the one on the 31st. Is there objection from board members to do that?
No objection.
That way, hopefully, we will all 5 be present and be able to have a stronger discussion around the comments and discussion of this particular policy. Okay. So I will ask for 2 motions. One for approval of the discussion for the board rating report for board policy 1000.3.0 global governance commitment.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Norm, seconded by Graciela. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Villanueva,
Yes.
President Rice,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Beckett.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Now I will need a motion to table the discussion on 1000.3.1 governing style until our meeting on the 31st.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ryan, seconded by Norm. Is there any discussion? Okay, Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Villanueva,
Yes.
President Rice,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Beckett.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you very much. Next, we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda is an opportunity for the board to dispense with regular and routine items with one vote. These are typically items that the board is required to approve or have been delegated to the superintendent, and state law requires approval by the board. Any board member can ask to have removed from the consent agenda any item for separate action and or discussion. Tonight, the consent agenda is comprised of approval of minutes for the December 21st meeting, budget status reports for December 2021, notification of approval of warrants for December 2021, and those warrants include 4 groups of general fund warrants, 1 group of ASB warrants, 1 group of transportation warrants, 1 group of capital project warrants, and 1 group of payroll warrants. Additionally, the consent agenda consists of approval of personnel actions. Is there any board member who wishes to have any item removed from the consent agenda for separate action and or discussion? Seeing none, Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Norm, seconded by Graciela. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Ms. Villanueva,
Yes.
President Rice,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Beckett.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is approval of real property under Resolution 03.21.22. Is Dr. Rodriguez here this evening?
She is.
There she is.
I am here. I've been waiting patiently this evening to be before you, board. So Board President Rice, members of the board, it's my privilege and honor to be here to request that you pass a resolution approving the purchase of real property and the structure thereon in the amount of $2.6 million. The property is located at 610 North 39th Avenue in Yakima, 98908, and is identified as auditor's parcel number 1813115-43408. No one but the auditors care about that particular number. We are excited about this property. We believe the purchase will allow for us to add some new educational programming for the students and families who reside within our district. It aligns directly with our goals 2, 3, and 4 in our district strategic plan. The fiscal impact, as I've already mentioned, is in the amount of $2.6 million. As the board will recall, we had previously authorized the district to enter into a purchase and sale agreement contingent on a fair market value appraisal, and then the board's approval for the purchase of the real property. We have received the appraisal back. It came in at $2.6 million exactly. We also had an inspection completed on the site and the building, and believe that it will meet our needs moving forward. You do have a copy of the resolution in the board packet today. It is board resolution number 03.21.22. And I would be asking the board for a vote to approve that resolution this evening. Happy to answer any questions.
I just had one niggling little question, Jenny. I noticed in reading through the proposal that that at some point within the process there had been a frozen pipe and water damage in the basement of that building. And so my question is there a consideration on the price reduction? I'm assuming that because we're going to be doing remodeling, maybe some configuration, that we will take care of whatever the water damage did, but is there a consideration in the price for the fact that we're getting a building that has now sustained some damage?
Yeah, it's a very fair question, Board Member Walker. We were aware of the water damage prior to making the offer of purchase, and our offer of purchase was as is. All of the water damage has been already remediated, but there is some reconstruction to be done. So I know it is indicated in the appraisal report, but we were aware of that prior to seeking approval to make an offer on the property.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Of course.
Dr. Rodriguez, the funding for covering the cost of this property comes from?
It is from ESSER funds, and we have already applied to the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction at the state level for approval to utilize ESSER funding for this purchase, in addition to some additional funds to pay for the property repairs that Board Member Walker was already referencing, as well as some initial IT infrastructure and furniture for this space. So we already have that approval from OSPI at the state level to utilize those dollars.
Okay, and perhaps you said that and I missed it. Any other questions from board members? Okay. The board is being asked to approve resolution 03.21.22 for approval to purchase real property and the structure thereon in the amount of $2.6 million located at 610 North 39th Avenue in Yakima and identified as auditor's parcel 181-315-43408. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Norm, seconded by Graciela. Is there any discussion? Dr. Green, do you have anything to add before the board casts its vote?
Not before the board passes its vote, but afterwards, yes.
Okay. All right. Seeing no discussion from board members, Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Villanueva,
Yes.
President Rice,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Beckett.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you very much. Dr. Green.
Director Beckett will probably appreciate that you don't sell past the close. So I wanted to make sure I did not sell past the close, and simply want to thank the board for taking this step. I believe this action will serve the board, serve the district in a way that accommodates not only students, but families and community, and becomes self-sustaining. And I believe we'll be able to recoup the funding that we're putting into this through the programming that will be put in place. And I thank Dr. Rodriguez for her vision in this area and for realizing this event and opportunity for our district.
You're muted, Martha.
Once at the beginning, once at the end. Dr. Green, thank you for your thoughts on this. I know that I am comfortable speaking for the rest of the board in saying that we're excited to see this come to fruition. I know that that the services we're going to be able to provide out of that facility will really make a difference for a lot of families in our community. So thank you to you and Dr. Rodriguez for continuing to look to the future to see how we can meet the needs of our students and our district through the strategic plan and appropriate use of ESSER funds. Next item on the agenda is approval of the PSE agreement. Chris Miller. Chris, thanks for hanging in there with us all through this meeting.
It has been riveting. I've learned lots, and I've appreciated that. Thank you for having me aboard. I am here, the membership of the Public School Employees of Washington, the Yakima Food Service, voted on December 16th, 2021 to ratify the collective bargaining agreement as amended through the tentative agreements reached between the two bargaining teams during the course of bargaining. The district bargaining team is now seeking approval by the board of directors. Want to take a second and thank both bargaining teams. They worked very hard. Myself, I came in at the tail end.
Could you slow down for the interpreter?
Oh, I apologize. I think it's Patty. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
All right. So I want to thank both teams. They worked really hard, putting a lot of time to come to this agreement. Again, the requested action is that the board of directors approves the agreement between the Public School Employees of Washington, the Yakima Food Service, and the Yakima School District. This action aligns with strategic goal number 2 in the strategic plan alignment. And some background information on this is that through this bargaining, I'm really excited to announce it's resulted in a 3-year agreement. This will be through the 2021 through the 2024 school years. For this school year, 2021 to 2022, It's going to increase the base wage salary of 11% for the starting rate. The 2022 to 2023 school year will increase by 2.5% or IPD, whichever is greater. The 2023 to 2024 will increase the base wage salary of 2% or IPD, whichever is greater. We also negotiated some longevity recognition added with additional steps to the salary schedule for 20-year service employees, and then also an increase to the School Nutrition Association certification stipend to 75 cents per hour. That is a basic summary.
Thank you, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Just in case people might be startled by the increase for 21-22 school year, is that to bring our folks up to par with surrounding districts? Do you know?
Yes, absolutely. This puts us towards the higher end of private sector, and it puts us back in competition with local districts.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Chris? Okay, seeing none, the board is being asked to approve the bargaining agreement that's reached with the Public School Employees of Washington, Yakima Food Service, and the Yakima School District. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Graciela, seconded by Norm. Is there any discussion? Chris, could you just share with us and the viewing and listening public the members of the various bargaining teams? Do you have that in front of you?
I do. So for the district bargaining team, our chief negotiator is Anthony Murrieta. Myself, Cassie Davidson, Melissa Lim, Olivia Martinez, Luck Jarnko, Amanda Tillett. For the PSE bargaining team, it consists of Michelle Weir, Michelle Wirtz, Jill Bowman, Sherry Plummer, Teresa Higbee, and Candace Decio.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris, for being on that bargaining team, and please extend our appreciation to the other members of the bargaining teams as well. I know that during the times that we're in right now, I would expect that trying to do bargaining remotely may not work very well, and we have to be careful being in person. So please extend our appreciation to the teams for their work in getting us a 3-year contract. That's exceptional.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on this from the board?
You know, love those 3-year contracts.
Okay. Seeing no other discussion, Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Villanueva,
Yes.
President Rice,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Beckett.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you very much. Next, we have the second opportunity for comments from the public. Barb, we didn't have anyone sign in, did we?
No, we did not.
Okay. Mr. Superintendent, do we have a need for executive session?
We do not have need for executive session at this time.
Okay,
I do have one thing I'd like to share, however.
sure.
I neglected earlier to inform the board that we had both our Assistant Superintendent overseeing legal, Bob No, and our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Anthony Murrieta, who are on vacation today, which is why they were not present. Probably good to let the board know that, and thank you, Chris, for being here. Chris did fill in for Anthony, as you know. Anthony did call trying to get into the meeting, and I told him he was on vacation and would not allow him a link to access the meeting this evening. So that is why he's not here, certainly not for lack of effort. And Bob No may be listening in. He said he might call in, but I wanted you to know the reason why they're not here. And in addition, I want to thank also in front of the board, both Kathy Page and Charlotte Ellis for being here. They have spent significant time on board evenings events to be here and and this is something that is new for us as a board. We typically have not had our principal supervisors as part of this meeting. So to have them here and connecting us more directly to what is happening in the building and providing that perspective is something that is greatly appreciated. So thank you both, Kathy Page and Charlotte Ellis, for being here on a regular basis.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Anything else from board members for the good of the order?
President Rice? I
Yes,
did just
what?
check for a public forum, and we do have one more person that has signed up a few minutes ago.
Okay.
I could reach out to him on email real quickly if we want to pause for a moment and get him into this meeting.
Okay. Do you think he's available?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, hold on one moment.
All right.
Hello, board. John Kavanaugh, YA president. I would like to talk a little bit about the discussion on the calendar today.
Okay. John, you're aware of the protocols for board meetings. I think I've read them at meetings and you've heard them before. Do you want me to go over them again?
No, I think we'll be fine. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Barb will have a clock for 3 minutes and you'll see it on the screen from time to time. Okay.
Oh, you bet.
All right. Begin whenever you're ready.
There is some confusion between the board, the administration, and the committee on how the committee has operated in the past. The committee in the past only met twice to develop a calendar. The committee kept asking the administration, if you want us to look at research, please provide us with research. That the committee members, 3 of them have been principals that have changed almost every year that run buildings. The other 3 members are full-time teachers. The district has not provided anything to the committee until last spring when all the committee members went to the ESD 105 presentation on a balanced modified calendar. Well, if the committee, that was the first real exposure from somebody at that point, they didn't have the experience. The administration, Yakima School District, is finally getting out to the community and explaining this and what it is. I think the district still has a lot of work to do. This is not something that we want to rush into. It's something we want the employees to buy in before we go down this road. That is one of the major things that I know the national experts said. Our school staffs are burning out so fast from all the changes in the last 20 months, 19, 20 months they've been through. They're looking for some stability. Just like since Thursday, the rotation they have made and the time they spent getting ready for remote learning for this week. We have work to do to educate the community, get the community's thoughts on this, and also get the employees really thought, and there's work that needs to be done on this. I know the board's been talking about this for a long time, but almost nobody else has. I will give you one fact from our survey that a little bit scary is 270 of your 1,000 certified staff. So your teachers said they would look for jobs in other districts if we go drastically one way or another with the calendar. We are in a teaching shortage. There is not teachers out there. And now we're going to hand our best teachers to the districts around us that have a close to normal calendar. We need to get better at intercessions. Okay, that's one of the things where teachers like, yeah, but the intersections, and I'm not talking about the teachers delivering them, I'm talking the planning, how they're set up, that they're done well ahead of time so we know what we're doing. There's a lot of work that needs to be done prior to going to a real extended modified calendar and getting the people that are going to provide those services buy into that calendar. Thank you. I sat in on the meetings. If you have any questions for me, I'll answer them.
Thank you, John. Thanks for calling in on at the last minute. We appreciate your input.
You bet.
Anything else for the good of the order from board members? Okay. With that, I am going to adjourn the meeting. We will see you all next month. Have a wonderful interim and take care and be safe. Bye now.